Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar where we're going to talk a little bit about value vision and what our plans are and our methodologies are and what you can learn and what you can do with VaultSpeed. My name is Toinette Barnard. I'm the lead for data solutions delivery at Nexus Data. And I've spent the last 5 years leading data analytics teams and data modelers to deliver successful data projects to multiple different clients in lots of different industries. And our mission at Nexus Data is really to help our clients accelerate value. And that's what we're going to show to you a little bit in the webinar today, specifically in the data consolidation workspace and with VaultSpeed. And then with me today is Antonio from VaultSpeed. And Antonio has been doing lots of VaultSpeed implementations at multiple different clients. So he is very skilled in this area to be able to support anything that we might want to know about adding value and using VaultSpeed to do that.
Thank you, Toinette. I'm thrilled to be here.
Great stuff. All right. We are going to head over into the presentation. And for today, what I wanted to focus on for a little bit, and that's where the name of this webinar came from as well, is value vision. And we believe that all companies across the world have one strategic objective, at least one in common, and that is to grow. Either grow revenue, grow value, grow the number of people that you have, grow your influence, but you want to grow. So we could say that all companies have a vision to increase value. And what most companies are not aware of, though, is you can use data to enable this growth. And if you look at some of the main big brands that we have on the screen at the moment, there's some names that you would definitely recognize. And they have some amazing success stories of value that they created or added by using the data space, projects in the data space. And I want to highlight just a couple for you. So Netflix, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. And if you've used Netflix, you will know that once you've watched something, it shows this little section in the app that tells you this is the recommended TV series or movies based on what you just watched. Now, Netflix went through a huge data exercise to be able to do that, where they combined data and not just combined data, but combined a huge amount of data. So some of the numbers that they're reporting is they had 4 million subscriber ratings, 3 million searches, 30 million plays a day that people watch. And they analyzed all of this. They ran predictive models on it so they could learn exactly what their customers find interesting. What types of shows do they watch? And in that process, they not only were able to do this recommended watches and increase the user experience of their people, but they could actually generate more revenue for themselves by creating shows like House of Cards and Arrested Development. And they made money from these shows, and they made the shows specifically from what they knew their people watched. And there's lots of stories similar to this. Lyft, for example, they analyze rider data and user interaction data and operational metrics in real time so that they can enhance the user's experience while they're on that ride. And not just that, so they could actually improve the ride matching efficiency that they have. And they're reporting that that project increased their revenue by $30 million incrementally annually. That's a huge stat. And the last one that I just quickly want to mention is PepsiCo. They have a worldwide presence, global presence. And what they did was they combined their data for sales, supply chain, and marketing across their global footprint. And what they could do is they could optimize their inventory management system as well as their targeted marketing approach so that they could reduce waste and increase revenue. So lots of stories like this. If you go and research any of the other big brands on the screen, you will read similar stories. And you might now see these big brands and think, well, they're big brands. They can do that. They can do big data projects. I'm too small. a company to be able to achieve anything remotely like that. And what we're here to tell you today is that it is possible for you to do it, although you're not the size of these companies. If you follow our methodology and best practices and you use VaultSpeed, then it is definitely possible to do that. And we'll show you a little bit about that in the rest of the presentation today.
Well, thank you, Toinette. I cannot agree more. Those big enterprises, well, any single enterprise is really sitting on a pile of data and they want to create actionable insights. In that perspective, trying to analyze and getting more value out of those many data sources coming from their operational systems. Well, that's where VaultSpeed can play an important role. So the VaultSpeed automated data product delivery platform will leverage you to use automation to create those data products. Well, by providing managed templates to create your integration data layer, and even more by using also automation to implement your presentation layer, to implement your business logic. And again, you know me, I'm really like to use technology, but well, no matter what technology you want to use, it must always serve a business purpose. So you must ask the question, well, why are customers really choosing VaultSpeed? And then if you can click on the button, it's a build up, you will actually find why. So if you're using within your data product, if you're using automation, automation will accelerate your data product delivery. Well, if you're accelerating your data product delivery, implicitly, you're actually shortening the time to value. And that is actually a very valuable asset for your business people. Even more, if you're using a streamlined process to using automation to create your data products, well, in that perspective, you're really doing much more with the same set of resources. So you're increasing efficiency, and that translates to cost savings. Well, who can be against cost savings? And then further, last but not least, well, if you're having a very structured process, an automated process to create your data products and to deliver your data products, well, you have better insights to actually do your cost predictable predictions. And in that perspective, you're going to lower your project risks. And that again will actually give you a comfort feeling to continue with your data product journey.
Now, you can imagine that, and I'm imagining that as we're talking through this and you're thinking about your data landscape, you might think that there's lots of stuff out there. Like I have lots of different systems, I have lots of different data. And more than just that, it's in separate applications. And my reporting is separate in those applications. I can't get a 360 view of my customer because my customer data, some of it sits in my ERP, some of it sits in Salesforce in terms of my opportunities. Then I have some marketing data that sits in my marketing system. I have my help desk that's there. So Zendesk has some information about support calls that customers log. And then my accounting system that has my billing data. So how do I get all of this together? Because right now I just have these separate reports from different systems. And that's just touching customers. What if we add to that you want to analyze employee information, and employee information sits in multiple systems, and you want to analyze inventory, and inventory sits in multiple systems. So there's this big problem that people face where you've implemented source systems for a specific purpose, but now it's very difficult to bring all of that together to really give you the answers that you need to add that value to your company. And that's where a tool like VaultSpeed comes in. And what VaultSpeed will do is it'll collect that data from the different systems, it consolidates it into one place. And not just that, you can use VaultSpeed to align your data to one another. Because what we all know is if you're capturing customer data in more than one system, the chances are very high that there's not necessarily consistency in terms of customer numbers. In one system, it's called customer 123, and in another system, it's called customer ABC. And there's absolutely no way without mapping them to each other that you could get that one view of customer. So you could use VaultSpeed to align that data as well. So you have all of your data then in one place through VaultSpeed that can enable this analytics journey for you.
That's indeed very true. I've prepared a few use cases, Toinette, to go over a few examples of how our customers are really using VaultSpeed. maybe you can start with the first one. If you click on the next slide, about data silos. Well, it's a fact. Many companies, if not all of them out there, really have more than 100 data sources. Well, integrating data from these numerous data sources is really a daunting task. Well, that's where VaultSpeed comes in. It will not only automate the creation of your data products, but it will make sure that you can digest also changes to keep your data products in sync with reality by capturing changes and implement those changes into your data products to keep them relevant. Well, what does bring this to the business? Well, the easier it's actually to onboard new sources to your data project, the more sources you will actually have in scope. And then the more sources you have, well, the higher the data quality. And the higher the data quality, well, the higher the risk calculation is going to do to evaluate and assess the risk of customers requesting new loans. And in that perspective, it's really driving and lowering the operations risk of our insurers and bank institutions that are really using VaultSpeed in that perspective.
Now, I'm sure that some of you might have thought now, okay, you showed me all of this data, you're talking through this example. It's a lot. There might be a couple of thoughts that crossed your mind, like, okay, I understand that it's possible through VaultSpeed, but where do I even start? And I'm sure that maybe some of you might have thought, could I attempt to do this manually as a starting point? Now, the first thing that I want to mention is we know that there's lots of value to extract from your company's data. And to do it all at once can be a very, very expensive exercise. And from a business perspective, if you have to go and ask for the funds to be able to implement this, and you need to explain this very technical thing to a CFO, he won't understand it. So you won't understand why do you want to spend this huge amount of money for something that he doesn't understand. So what we suggest, and you'll hear this a couple of times throughout what we're discussing here, is that you start with something small but valuable. If you just start with something small but it's not valuable, you won't be able to show the value and you won't necessarily be able to continue your journey. So you need both of those two things. Start small, but start valuable. What I want to do is, if I talk about starting with a valuable use case, that could seem very, what does that even mean? I want to explain it to you with an example. Most of us know how a subscription based business works. You pay a specific amount a month and you get some sort of service or product for that amount that you pay. So let's say you have a subscription based business. So you rely on customers paying a certain amount every single month. Let's say that you are seeing from your revenue figures that more and more customers are starting to cancel their subscriptions. So you know that you probably have a problem, but how do you even address this? Because like we've explained with the example earlier, let's say that your customer interaction data sits in Salesforce and Zendesk has your support tickets that the customers logged, and your finance system has the amounts that you've billed them every month. And you maybe have a web platform and Google Analytics has that product usage data. And there's some customer reviews that sit on your social media. And all of these things have an impact on why customers decide to cancel subscriptions. So you need all of them together. So what we suggest is the first thing that you think about is a little bit of a financial model to help you understand the value that you can add. So what that could typically mean is, let's say on average, you lose 10 customers a month. And that value that you lose is essentially those 10 customers' subscription fee. So you can very easily calculate, for example, that you're losing $10,000 of revenue every month because of those 10 customers that you lose. So if you were to fix that problem through some sort of data initiatives, you could say that you can earn the business $10,000 of revenue a month extra that they wouldn't have if those customers left. So that's the value in terms of a financial model that you could add by a use case like that. Now, once you have that in place, you obviously need to think about, okay, how do I go about doing this and solving this problem? And then inevitably the discussion about doing this automated or doing this manual comes up. And what I want you to think about is, firstly, from a value perspective. Let's not think about costs for a moment because we all kind of go to the cost side first. I want us to think about the value side. So you've identified this one use case now where you can earn $10,000 of revenue every month if you fix this one problem. There's more than just that one use case out there. And as soon as you can deliver a use case like this, it means that you can add that value. So the quicker you can deliver a use case like this, the more value that you can add. So if you can finish, and based off of our combined experience of building things with VaultSpeed and building things manually, we can more or less establish a timeline that it'll take you to build a use case. And based on that timeline, it about ends up that you could finish an average of 11 value driving initiatives in a year. So if you could do that automated, the time frame to do it manually is about 3. So what that means is if I can add value with every use case that I deliver, it means I could, if we use the averages that I explained earlier, if I go automated, I can realize 11 times $10,000 in 1 year. Whereas with manual, I can only deliver 3 times 10,000. So very quickly that starts adding up. And if you look at a picture over 5 years, as we see on the screen here, then there is a big difference that starts coming in. On the manual side, you can deliver 15 initiatives worth about 4.7 million if we just use the average of $10,000. And in contrast to that, 52 initiatives using an automation tool and adding value of $16.2 million. That is a huge difference if we just think about it for the moment from a value perspective and the value that you can add using an automation tool.
Well, indeed, it's about really doing more with the same set of resources because you can accelerate your process with data products. I totally agree. You will be able to build more data products, and more data products will bring actually more solutions. And that what we see as well in our customer base, where we see, well, fine, because we can deliver faster. Well, you will be able to deliver much faster those crisp, ready-to-use reports for your data consumers that needs those insights, okay, pre-calculated. But what we see also happening is that, well, people can start preparing with the automation platform data sets that are really reflecting the state of the business process. And then that will actually enable data savvy people to actually start creating their own analytics and their own insights. There are a lot of people out there that are very knowledgeable on, well, Power BI or Tableau that can actually use and really capitalize on a clean data set that is pre-integrated and create their own insights, really driving a data culture and even empowering innovation. And we see, well, we have many use cases, but one that is really extremely interesting, at least in my opinion, is that, well, we have those guys that are really data savvy, took those data sets and they start really creating 360-degree view of their customers, more specifically of their wealth portfolio. And in that perspective, they were able to create personalized investment strategy, even increasing the customer binding. And well, customer binding means no customer churns. Again, a perfect use case that was driven by automation and by data savvy people.
Right. And that advantages that we just spoke about in terms of empowering people and the value that you could add by actually delivering these data products. I know that there might be some people out there thinking, okay, I get it. I get that this is valuable. I get that I can do amazing things. But let's get back to the cost discussion for a moment, because an automation must cost something, right? And we can't just completely skip past that. What I quickly want to show you is let's bring cost into the discussion as well. So I have my value charts from earlier. I've just split it into 2 separate charts, for one for manual and one for consolidated. And what we did here is, yes, automation does have a software cost to it that you won't have with manual. I get that. And that does mean that starting out your automation journey might cost more than starting out your journey manually, which might make it seem like a good idea to go manual because I don't want that cost for software. I included the cost for software. I also included platform cost because you obviously need to put your data warehouse down somewhere. And then people cost as well. And that's a big differentiator between automation and manual. Because if you're not going to use an automation tool, you need people. And if you don't have a lot of people, you're going to deliver your use cases slower. That all is added in. And what you can see in this picture is you can see, although automation starts out a little bit higher than what the manual consolidation starts, because you can deliver so many use cases and you can deliver them quicker than what you can deliver with the value. With a manual consolidation, that value starts coming earlier. So you get more value quicker. And where your value and your cost curve actually cross each other. So where your value becomes more than your cost. On the automated side, that is in month 9 already. So less than a year in, even with the software cost that you have to pay, you're already generating more value than the cost that you had to pay. Whereas with manual, because it's a very labor intensive work to do things manually, and you need to set up the right processes to make sure everybody does it correctly. And take into account in this that costs don't necessarily just mean implementation costs, it means support costs and maintenance costs. And what you'll see with the manual consolidation is the first time that your value actually becomes greater than your cost is at month 55. So 4.5 years down the line, $4 million into the process. That's the first time where you can really say that, okay, my value is more than my cost. So now we have cost in the discussion as well. And now I assume the next question becomes, where do I start? What do I do? Where do I go from here? And how do I actually kick off this journey?
Well, that's a very good question, Toinette. And indeed, well, there's no denial. Cost will be driving your data projects as well. So, like any project, well, cost is a cornerstone of everything. And it's just true that it will actually have a cost. But again, whenever looking about cost and be effective, well, you need to use and the speed that automation provides to your project. And well, speed will help you to keep your data products that you're going to generate, you're going to keep them relevant for the business and make sure that you can answer very fast and very quickly, okay, those data needs are going to have that will be actually coming up from nowhere. And then if you're trying to solve this by manually configuring everything, that's very cumbersome and you lose speed. And if you lose speed, you will always have outdated products. And we see quite of our customers really kind of having initiative. They call it data mart as a service. And with the data mart as a service, well, it's about, well, I have a need. I have a data need. Cool, I have automation. So let's make sure I can prioritize those data needs and start creating data services, okay, to cover them, okay, based on the priority. And in a matter of 2 sprints, you can create your data services. And then that's actually, using and exploiting that foundation layer that is actually provided by your automation engine. And what kind of data mart as a service are we talking about? Well, it can be anything, for instance. So we see pricing teams, okay, requesting data marts as a service, okay, to have an overview of all the pricing about what actually the sales figures will actually kind of evolve in the case of there will be actually implementing a price increase, or have data scientists looking for, I would say, data mart they can use to predict the cost and liability of complex insurance claims use cases. And these are all things you can just prepare in a matter of 2 sprints, a couple of weeks. These data marts are available. And the beauty of that automation data platform is, okay, well, these are data services and you will keep them alive as long as you need them. But if you don't need anymore, okay, you can just, okay, dispose them because the entire, I would say, fact of your enterprise that integrate the data sets are really in your foundation layer, ready to answer new use cases, okay, day after day, week after week. And that's what automation is doing to you. It's true, it's at a cost. It's going to empower you with a speed of execution that is never seen before.
Yes, for sure. And like you just said, we start small and then we build it out. And before you know it, you have all of your data in this data warehouse. And these use cases that keep popping up, you can solve very, very quickly because the data's there. And if the data's not there, it's not a problem because we have our automation tool and we could just bring that extra data set or that extra source system or little small system that you have here on the side. We can just bring that in. So you have to start somewhere. And like we said, we suggest you start small but valuable.
Mhm.
So what we suggest you do and supporting this notion of small but valuable is what we call an MVP solution. So essentially what that boils down to, and you'll see the QR code on the screen here, and that is to book a consultation with us. So the first thing that we want to understand is we just want to have a conversation with you to understand your business, to understand that use cases that you have in your business, to help you identify which ones is the most valuable, which one's the best starting point, so that you can start with that big, amazing thing, show something that everybody says, wow, did you just finish that thing in 2 months? We've been struggling with this for years. And then because it's an MVP offer, you can build on that. So we customize that offer for you. And in that, we include 2 months of guided and supported development. So we will work with you to develop that valuable use case, and we'll address something in your business. It's not going to be we just take sample data and build it for you so you can see that the tool works. We're actually going to connect to your data. We're actually going to deliver that business case that is valuable to you and that'll actually showcase to your business users what this tool means that they might not understand from a technical perspective, but they will definitely understand it from a business use case perspective. And then because we've built it on this foundation and it's not a separate tool, it's something that you can build on later and going forward. You have something that you could
Indeed.
use.
Well, that's
And
where to go.
yeah,
Start
exactly.
small, use automation, and grow according to your business requirements.
Exactly. And nothing that we did in the MVP needs to be thrown away. You can just build on top of that as you build out your use case. All right. That is it from us today. Thanks everybody for your time. And we'd love to hear from you if you book a consultation with us so that we can discuss this a little bit further.